Hey, welcome to In Bed with Keanu and Sarah Beth. I'm Keanu.
And I'm Sarah Beth, and we're actually on a couch.
You used that joke last time, so they don't need to know that we're sitting on a couch, sweetheart. We're naked, actually. Butt naked. When our friends come over, our butts touch the couch. They gotta sit on our butt juices.
Wow. All right. Thanks for that image.
Alright, today we're gonna be talking about Ghosted and Arrested Development. If you want to take a guess on what I made Sarah Beth watch, it would be Arrested Development, and she made me watch Ghosted.
Yes, I did. I did make you watch Ghosted, and I'm still a little salty the fact that it's been canceled and it's now not on Hulu anymore. It was a TV show that was on Fox, and I don't know why, but they didn't renew it after one season, and I'm still a little salty because it was a great show starring Adam Scott and Craig Robinson, two great comedic minds, and I'm very sad about it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always funny because, I don't know if you know this about Arrested Development, but that was also canceled too.
I mean, obviously, the show's super old.
Okay, first of all, it wasn't canceled because it was super old. They don't just cancel shows because they're old. Okay? The show got canceled like during the peak where the ratings were super high and Fox just wanted to go in a different direction, which we'll explain that later on as far as that goes when I find out whether or not you want to keep watching the show or not. So, yeah, why don't you start in on what you thought of Arrested Development? What were some of the things? Or should we do like a little intro to like what we've been up to?
Sure, we can do an intro with what we've been up to. Do you want to
Huh.
start?
Yeah, sure. Well, we both just had to pay almost $550 to the fucking Arlington County Treasury Department. No, it was $500.
It was over five hundred
It was
dollars.
over $500 for personal property tax, which I understand, I guess, a little bit. But at the same time, the fuck, Arlington. Get your shit together. They first of all sent us two different slips, which, obviously for two different cars. But then when I went to go pay that one, pay yours specifically, they're like, oh, you actually owe $400 instead of $320. I was like, no. That's not what it says on the thing, so,
Just bureaucracy and having to deal with it.
yeah.
You know, the joys of being taxpayers, I guess.
Fun, stupid shit. Really first world problems, because, I mean, at least we don't have people kicking in our doors and, like, taking
Right.
us away for not paying it, so
Well, and at least we have the money to pay our taxes as well.
that's true.
That's also true. We're both employed, which is important.
Which helps,
Yeah.
too, when it comes to these type of situations. But still, you don't want to give away your fucking hard-earned money to some bullshit. And it's literally a sticker. It's a $300 sticker, pretty much.
Well, I actually heard so starting next year, Arlington is actually going to be getting rid of the stickers and they're just going to be scanning our license plates. They're going to have a little sticker thing that goes, or like a weird scan barcode on your license plate that is going to let them know instead of the sticker. So the sticker is only until next year.
Well, that's great. Now we can be like we'll just have a barcode for them to keep track of us. And who's going to be doing these scannings?
It's always the parking enforcement and the local police who don't actually fight crime because there's barely any crime in Arlington. So
Sure,
you
there's
know.
crime in Arlington,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
not.
they
But
have
not.
better things to do.
Yeah, there's really no. They don't have better things to do, which is why they're doing that.
I'm sure they could find something. There's got to be something going on.
I mean, they could go help out the Metro Police in D.C., but they're not paid to do that. So
Exactly. But that's local news. Anyway, how's school coming along? We didn't mention this on any of the podcasts, but Sarah Beth's a graduate student from GW. In case you don't know her, which you
yeah,
probably don't.
school's been going well. I finally got my data from the CDC, so I can finally start doing my thesis.
Hmm.
So I've slowly been ticking away at that, and I've just accepted the fact that even though I wanted to graduate in December, it's probably not going to be till May. Especially as I'm hopefully getting promoted at work, so I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be really busy with that while trying to finish up school. So
Hmm.
I'm just taking my time and gonna get my thesis done when it gets done.
Yeah.
So that's my update.
Well, I've been slowly turning into like a teacher slash mentor to the kids that I work with. And well, I've been a mentor, but the teaching part is brand fucking new. And almost every single week I find a different word that is super annoying to try and explain to somebody and why it's said that way. Like, take for instance, today. I found out that the word hour is super confusing to explain, especially when you have to then explain the word your. They make...
Wait, hour with an H or hour?
No, hour, either one. Hour with an H or just O-U-R, hour, okay?
Because there's two, because they're pronounced the same, but they have two totally different definitions.
Right. Well, that part, it's a homophone, but that's not the confusing part. The confusing part is when you go to say your.
Why is that confusing?
Well, because your is spelled, well, I guess, maybe I'm thinking of like text lingo, Y-O-U-R.
Yeah, Y-O-U-R is the correct.
Yeah, but
spelling.
Don't you have to do an apostrophe?
Oh, no, that's U-R. So Y-O-U apostrophe R-E.
So if you're saying like, you are a dickhead.
Yeah, and you say you're a dickhead. Versus like your,
but is your actually an actual
your,
word?
yeah, your is a word. So like yours, like that's yours over there.
Okay.
That's Y-O-U-R.
Okay.
Or like that's your dog.
So the spelling for Y-O-U-R is the same spelling as the hour, only they make two different sounds.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Your is Y-O-U-R. Hour is O-U-R. There's no Y.
Right. The only difference is the
Y
and the H, but when you say the words, they have two completely different sounds.
Right, yours versus our.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the
so
Y. Yeah, the Y makes.
If you
it
applied
sound.
either of them, it would be like
but
whore or yower.
I mean, I guess. I guess it's just one of those things where it's like the English language is difficult, and you just have to like accept the rules and deal with it.
Yeah. But other than that, everything's been going good. But that was a quick little update. But we're gonna move into the TV shows now. So, the show I made Sarah Beth watch is Arrested Development. Take it away, sweetheart. Why don't you explain what happened?
So in Arrested Development, in the first season 1, episode 1, we are introduced to the Bluth family, and the main character is Michael Bluth, played by Jason Bateman, who I love. He's just such a funny actor. I've seen a lot of his movies. In this, he's super young, and so I wasn't really sure like when this show was made. But I guessed it was probably made in the early 2000s, and I was right. I could tell by some of the clothing and just like the different things that they talked about on the show that that's what it was about. So it was basically the premise of the show was that Michael Bluth, he was expecting to inherit his father's business as his father was retiring. So they were like throwing the premise of the show, they were like throwing a big retirement celebration for his dad. Come to find out though, his one of his brothers was going to be inheriting, or no, his mom was going to be inheriting.
His mom was.
It was going to be inheriting the business instead of him, but his mom is like really bad with money and like irresponsible. So so Michael was kind of tweaking out that the company was going to go under. And then we're also introduced to Michael's other siblings. So there's Job, who's his older brother, who's also a magician. And he is, also kind of irresponsible and like just childish. And then there's also his other brother who's like a grad student. Do you remember what the other brother's name is?
Yeah, Buster.
And so Buster is like just a perpetual grad student, like hasn't really done anything with his life, has not really worked a day in his life, so they're all kind of useless. And and then there's his twin sister, Michael's twin sister, who's basically, she comes off as kind of like a gold digger, or like a housewife, like she's just kind of like staying at home and like supporting her husband, and she eventually does like go back to work in the second episode. But in the first episode, she's really just seen as working with
she's a mooch.
Like just
much.
and so they're all just kind of lazy, and really the only person who seems to really be doing much with his life is Michael. So that's why it was kind of surprising that his dad decided to give the company over to the mom. And then, let's see, we're also introduced to Michael's son, George Michael, which I thought was funny. And George Michael is played by a very young Michael Cera. And
He's like 13 or 14.
yeah, he's super young. And then, so George Michael's just socially awkward, as is Michael Cera. And then we're introduced to George Michael's cousin, Maybe, who is the child of Michael's sister, Lindsay, and her husband, Tobias. So that's like how they're all related.
Tobias Funke.
And then, so it's basically just, like basically just introducing the characters. That was like the whole premise of the show. And it sets it up because Michael isn't inheriting the business. It's, it obviously like goes into, it sets it up for them to be in like just tracking Michael and like seeing what he ends up doing because he isn't inheriting the business. And then all of that good stuff.
Are you talking about the show?
Yeah. Like in the show, like it kind of, that's how the first episode kind of like sets up because like they end up begging him to come back to like run the business. So, I mean, it kind of just sets up like how he's going to be like maybe coming back and taking it over, maybe not. And like how his family's all going to kind of fit in. And then the whole thing about like why is the show called Arrested Development was kind of bothering me throughout the whole show. And then I find out, so towards the end of the episode is when Michael's dad is arrested at the retirement party
for embezzlement
for the business that they run. So there's the arrested part, and the thing is the business that they run is building housing developments. So then the family ends up having to live in one of the model homes of the housing development because of the embezzlement charges.
Well, George Michael and Michael Cera and Jason Bateman were already living in the home to make it seem like somebody's still living there, and it's so they were already living there. They just happened to move the entire family in there.
Yeah, well, because all of the other properties were liquidated, all the money was being held with the embezzlement charges. So it was overall pretty funny, and it was interesting seeing how they were setting up and introducing all the characters because there were a lot of characters to follow.
Yeah, no, they do. There's a lot of things like you have to kind of pay attention to get the jokes and stuff like that. It was actually one of the first shows to do like actual like cutaways, kind of like as far as like to explain something. Like a character will say something. Like one of my favorite ones from that very first episode is when, Lucille, the mother, she's like, I love all my children equally, and then it cuts away to like earlier in the day, and she's like, I don't care much for Job, which is her oldest son. Yeah. So there's like certain things where if you're not paying attention, you'll miss.
But I guess I didn't know that was like one of the pioneering things from that show, because I feel like, because this show is like 15 years old. Like I've seen that in so many other shows that probably have taken it from that, but I wouldn't have known that unless you had told me.
Did you have any other notes as far as that goes?
No, not really. I mean, I liked it enough that I then watched the second episode, as you know. Mm-hmm. And the second episode gets, there's a little bit more character development, obviously, and, and we learn more about, like, the court case and about the business, and there's yet another cliffhanger with the banana stand going up in flames. So there's some other things that come up that I see as like future big plot points for the series. It's a funny show. It's not necessarily like my favorite type of comedy, but I mean, I would watch it if it was on, type of thing. But I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it's one of those shows like you do need to watch in order. Like you can't just watch one episode. You
do, to get certain parts of the jokes, and obviously to see they do a lot of a lot of episodes that are not filler episodes, but they like they do, like, let's say like 3 or 4 episodes that are not linear, and then the next couple are towards the end of the season. So there are certain things that you'd have to watch that you'll get certain jokes for, like the fact that Buster has all these different degrees, so he just, depending on the situation, he'll be like, oh, I did this in college, and he's obviously a mama's boy. and that plays into